Hey, what's up everybody? You're watching the weekly recap of the MPL MY, and we're going to be covering week 5 and as well as week 6 all bundled up into one, and hopefully it's not a 40-minute long video, so we're going to try and keep this short, but stay along because there's a lot of things that we're going to be covering today. Hey guys, if you want to support the channel, all you gotta do is hit that like and notification bell right underneath, like right now. Comment as much as you want, share this to all your friends if you possibly can, because right now I can maybe help out with my girlfriend's crippling skin addiction. I don't know why. 10,000 diamonds just ain't enough. If you want to help the channel out, all you gotta do, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and watch this video all the way to the end. So thank you so much for those who are supporting the content. Now let's jump back into the weekly recap. First things first, Team SMG looking to hold their top 2 spot in the standings at the beginning of week number 5, with their head-to-head looking pretty good against the majority of the top 4 teams, with the only exception being SRG, which they would have to face later on. They also just need to maintain their overall points. Like, as long as they have that lead against the top 4, they're basically safe and secured. Every 2-1 is okay. Every 2-0 is 1 extra point, so it didn't seem too hard. Until we look at some of their competitors, with RSG quickly catching up in this race, not only winning out and beating a majority of the teams except for the earlier teams, which would be Homeboys in week number 1, they continue to grind and now are in a position to actually steal this top spot away from the side of Team SMG, with the exception that they beat Torak and as well as MPXNC in a 2-0 fashion. Remember, if we look at the graphs, it's 3 games. They have 3 games to make this happen. And Homeboys, on the other hand, which is their closest competitor and the only team who has taken down RSG at this point of time in week number 1, they have 2 games left. So that's a 1-game difference to try and close that gap. Now, we're talking a lot about the top 4, but what about the bottom 4 at the beginning of week number 5? Looking at the standings, as we can see here, Team Secret have 3 games left to play. Red Esports have 2 games left to play. Todak have 3 games left to play, and Lunatics have 2 games left to play. So what does this all mean? It means that Todak and as well as Lunatics, the truth is they need a 2-0, and they need a 2-0 really, really bad in any one of their games. Winning is definitely good, but 2-0 might just secure them an opportunity to stay out of the relegation zone, which is the most ideal situation they could be in. Now, Torak and as well as Lunatics are sort of in the same boat, just hovering above that relegation zone, but keep in mind that they have yet to face each other off in the regular season. Red as well as Team Secret are also currently in the danger zone. This was their only opportunity with the last remainder of their games to actually overtake Torak and Lunatics, to not put themselves in a position where basically fate will not be decided by their own hands. Red needs to win 2-0 in at least one of their games to qualify, or at least win the most important match, which would happen on week number 5, day number 2, where they would face off against Lunatics, which would put them in prime position to stay and completely make it into the play-ins and stay away from the relegation zone. Week 5 begins. Day number 1, Torak wins 2-1 against MPXNC, throwing Chiku back into the jungle and securing the series in spectacular fashion with a Guinevere tank jungle to close things out. Hawk then beats Team SMG 2-1, as Hawk continues to evolve, having fixed their EXP jungle flex draft pattern, which was first exposed by Team RSG. They have now slowly looked to recover. It's still sloppy, don't get me wrong, but at least they're going in and moving in the right direction to correct these draft mistakes. Day 2 starts to roll about. Homeboys end up 2-0ing Team Secret, with game 1 being decided by 1 fight at the 8th minute of the game, and fighting tooth and nail in game number 2 to eventually succumb to the Dark Knight during the Lord Dance that decided the game at the 25th minute, 42nd second in the game. Now, RSG ends up 2-0ing Torak in spectacular fashion, generating insane momentum in game number 1 with Fanny, but the real test was game number 2. Torak having a superior draft and their veteran mid laner Zyme really holding it together against the sweeping momentum of RSG for a whopping 24 minutes Unfortunately, they eventually fall with one of the craziest end sequences to date of Season 12. Red 2-1 LTX after witnessing one of the most insane games. Look, we devolved to the worst series known to man. Like, I'm not gonna lie, this series is extremely hard to watch, and I'll be real with y'all, I've redacted this game from my mind, because having to rewatch this again just wasn't worth it. It really wasn't worth it. Just watch the clip. Watch the clip. You'll understand.
Finish off. They're out. For now. Unless maybe.
Oh wait.
No. End this game just yet. Lunatics are still holding on. Mighty Fire Hana finds a knockout. Oh no, they're sure as well.
With these two teams, I don't goddamn know. They can do whatever they want, man. They can't do anything wrong, apparently.
Put us out of this misery.
This is miserable. It really is.
Day 3 rolls by pretty quickly, with SRG sweeping Team Hawk 2-0, putting Hawk out of contention for the top 2. And then, Team Secret, they just do the unthinkable. 2-0ing Team SMG in the most surprising fashion, one of the most surprising upsets of week number 5, period. And thanks to Team Secret, RSG has a chance to guarantee top 2. A top 2 regular season finish. They just have to beat MPXNC. Which leads us into the final game of week number 5 as RSG absolutely dominate MPXNC 2-0, punishing them for giving up space as they try to ube and utilizing their momentum to guarantee a top 2 finish. Now, at the end of week number 5, here are the results. RSG have basically secured top 1, leaving only one slot left, one more bye for any team to skip at least 3 games and go straight into the upper bracket semifinals of the playoffs. Team SMG have yet to face SRG, which is their very last game. Homeboys have already lost to only Team SMG, and as you can see here, it's basically a 3-way tiebreaker for second place. Now, these 3 competitors, the only condition that they must fulfill for their very last game is to achieve a 2-0 victory so that they can jump up into second place safely without much contention whatsoever. Then we talk about the relegation zone, the red zone, as we'd like to call it. Torak and LTX must win their next match 2-0 to guarantee safety from the relegation zone. However, the only problem is that LTX as well as Torak will have to face each other in their very final game. Red Esports and as well as Team Secret must win 2-0, and even then, there's no guarantee of qualifying. Week 6 comes by, and the last games are determined. Day 1. Team Secret 2-1 MPXNC, having finally rallying together, Matt and Max playing with their lives on the line, they just fell short of 3 points, tying up against LTX, yet losing out in the head-to-head. However, this doesn't mean that they are immediately eliminated. Now, MPL MY has been polishing its rule set since its conception, introducing a new list of priorities to tabulate the standings for Season 12. First, by points. Second, by head-to-head. And third, and finally, win ratio. If all of these conditions have all been successfully gone through, well, and they still can't predetermine a winner, they would unfortunately have to go to a tiebreaker, which they would have to play a couple of games. Now, this was introduced in Season 12, as MPL MY had a long history of not taking the early stages of the regular season too seriously, and, it was tabulated by win ratio. So for the first half, as long as you don't lose too many games, in the second half you win a majority of your games, it's usually okay. But this led to games being of extremely low quality till after the halfway point of the regular season. With this in mind, Team Secret had one last bastion of hope to qualify, and that was a 3-way tiebreaker. This would mean that Red Esports would have to win one game against RSG to achieve 7 points total. One game exactly. And Todak winning 2-0 against LTX. Not a 2-1, a 2-0. And because of the way the points work, this would initiate a 3-way tiebreaker. Now, as the day continues, SMG 2-1 SRG, taking out SRG's chance for top 2 as well as Team SMG's. And finally, RSG versus Red. With Team Secret awaiting for a single game win from Red, the match begins. Game number 1. RSG with the signature momentum-based sweeps taking control of every quadrant of the map after the first turtle. Game 1 ends at 13 minutes 41 seconds. Game 2 begins, and Red Esports change up their draft from being teamfight based to alt-dependent pickoff. The game begins, and Red refuses to give the momentum to RSG like they did in game number 1, finding a first blood onto Stolem and first turtle. 4 minutes 48 seconds. The fight that broke Red Esports. Mal, having used his divine judgment to pull Minotaur into his team for a pick, cost them everything as a series of unfortunate events occur. Rippo saves the situation by catching both Mal and Kim with his Petrify, allowing Storm to use his Minoan Fury. With that being said, Izanami then flickers and uses the stolen Rough Waves to end Kim, and Emal is then forced to give up the Lord. As day 2 began, Todak 2-0's LTX with no fear of relegation, having Homeboys with their final opportunity to secure top 2. Now, the Homeboys had reformed, having taken devastating losses during week 3. Looking to get a bye straight to the upper bracket semifinals, they had to secure a 2-0 victory against a constantly evolving Hawk. As the draft begins, both teams decide to not take up the double enchanters support meta, or hospital meta as we like to call it, sticking to comfort picks as they've been playing it all regular season. Team Hawk had a heavy snowball composition with strong laners and divers to chunk opponents and Martis to clean up shop. Homeboys went with a more defensive approach, wanting Hawk to engage first and instigating the fight with a Cho. As long as all resources have been used, Irithel at 3 items would be able to run down all of her targets without much of a fight. Game 1. Homeboys accidentally fall into the Furious Dive knockup, creating an opportunity for Hawk to achieve an early snowball. Homeboys continued to play sloppy for the first half of the game as they tried to regain their footing. In the end, Hawk warmed up a lot faster than Homeboys, resulting in a tremendous outplay in the fight sequence of 14 minutes 40 seconds in the game. With that, Homeboys loses their opportunity of a top 2 finish in the regular season to SMG due to the head-to-head. Homeboys eventually cleaned up the series 2-1 against Hawk, but not having performed on the game that mattered left them bitter and reinvigorated, as this wasn't the last time they would see Hawk. At the end of the regular season, Red and Team Secret get relegated. Hawk will have to face off MPX NC in the play-ins before taking on the Homeboys, who's looking to end their journey early. Todak will have to make a miracle run, needing to beat LTX to get past the play-ins, then facing off the highly anticipated SRG, which will be their second time in the playoffs of the MPL MY. If all goes well for the Malaysian favorites, they will have to face off against their bitter rivals, Team SMG, in the upper bracket semi-finals. And with that said, that covers and wraps up the regular season for the MPL MY. Thank you to everybody who's been watching the weekly recaps. We put a lot of effort into these videos, and without you guys supporting, commenting, liking, sharing, and don't forget to subscribe, it wouldn't be possible. We're getting closer to monetization, so please keep sharing and watching the video. We need those watch hours down so that we can monetize this and I can pay my editor even more so that she is more incentivized to get these videos out, because honestly, she's doing a lot of the heavy lifting and I just have to record in front of a camera. So thank you so much to everybody who's been watching. Get excited for the playoffs. The narratives, the stories have already been written by itself. I barely had to do any work for that, so it's crazy to imagine that this might be one of the most exciting playoffs for the MPL MY before the wild cards and before M5. Hope to see you guys soon, and I'll catch you back with another recap after the playoffs of the MPL MY. So, see ya.